Who is the richest musician in the world? Do a web search and you will find it as Paul McCartney, with a net worth of $1.24 billion. Whether you like the Beatles or not, you can't deny Paul McCartney's talent in music and business. So, how did the world's richest musician get his fortune? According to Heavy.com, Paul receives lots of royalties as the most successful songwriter of all time. He has been touring for over 40 years nonstop. He received plenty on his portion of the Beatles songs, and his third and current wife, Nancy, brings in several million a year from her family business. However, many people have a hard time connecting this ingenious businessman with the carefree, fun-seeking Paul McCartney we fell in love with 50-some years ago. Is Sir McCartney the same Paul we knew? Honestly, we don't know. Since 1969, when the first claim about Paul McCartney's death surfaced, many fans cried their loss while many others laughed at it. Other than the clues in albums and record covers, Paul's singing and songwriting styles did change. He did grow about 2 inches in height around 1967, and his eye color seems to be much lighter now. He left the Beatles in 1970 and did not even attend his own father's funeral in 1976. Although Sir McCartney was known to be a great father, he seemed to be cruel and heartless to his supposed illegitimate children. Paul must know how painful it is to grow up without a parent, as he lost his mother at age 14. While he has been extremely supportive to Stella, James, Mary, Beatrice, and Heather, he refused to have any contact with his supposedly illegitimate children. He did give in to court orders and had 2 blood tests with Bettina Krischbin in the 80s. But to everyone's surprise, it was not a match. The case did not go away. However, they lost their fight when the court decided that they filed their claims too late. However, a scientific team in Italy conducted a biometrical analysis on Paul McCartney in 2007. The scientists found discrepancies in facial features and concluded that the current Paul McCartney is not the same Paul McCartney before 1966. If that is true, the negative blood test result between Bettina and Paul may be the fake Paul proof. The Paul is dead theory can be quickly put off if Sir McCartney can do a DNA test with his brother Michael. Is there any way to prove the DNA link between Paul McCartney and the illegitimate children without the McCartney DNA? Actually, there is. Do you remember in 1995, DHL's founder Larry Hillblom lost his life in a plane crash at the age of 52? His death was a mystery because they never found his body. His home was cleaned of any trace of him, so no DNA can be found. The Medical Research Institute he donated his entire $600 million estate hired the best lawyer to fight the many paternity claims that popped up after his death. What do you think their chance of winning may be? Remember, there is no DNA of any kind from the alleged father. Even though these kids are from poor, uneducated families that had to sell their mothers for food, they won because DNA proved that 4 of them shared the same father. What are the chances of 2 girls from the Philippines, 1 in Vietnam, and 1 in Guam having kids that share the same father? The only connections these mothers have are their sexual encounters with Larry Hillblom. That is how Win B. Laurie got his $100 million when he turned 18. It is interesting in Larry Hillblom's case because, unbeknown to most, Larry was actually a lawyer. He could have blocked these kids' inheritance with a simple clause in his will, but he did not do it. Was it a simple oversight or an intentional omission? Either way, this case proved that what can be done was done and should be done again. So, if Bettina can prove she shares the same father as any other illegitimate McCartney children, she and her other half-siblings can potentially inherit hundreds of millions of dollars from the estate left by their father. Let's take a look at who are these illegitimate children. The oldest one is Michelle Lavalier, who later changed her name to Michelle McCartney. Many people think she looks just like Paul McCartney's daughter Mary, and she has played as a left-handed guitarist in an underground rock band. Just like Paul McCartney, she writes songs too. But the problem with her claim is that Paul would only be 17 when she was conceived. As she was born on April 5, 1960, but her birth certificate showed her father to be James Paul McCartney. That was before Paul became famous. Then Miss Bettina Krischbin was born in December 1962 in Germany. Paul was listed as the father on her birth certificate. He paid a child support settlement and had a 2-year relationship with her mother Erika Ubers between 1960 and 1962. Bettina may have the strongest proof to be Paul's daughter, and she fought and got 2 blood tests done in the 80s when both showed no blood ties with the current Paul. Her mother was so sure she was with no other than Paul during their love affair, she filed fraud charges against Paul, claiming the blood test was done through Paul's body double. However, no one believed her. Although until the DNA is out, no one can know for sure about these claims, I personally will have a hard time questioning Phillip's claim. Phillip was born on February 10, 1964. Anita was recognized as one of the Beatles' girl. Although Paul was not listed as the father on his birth certificate, Paul's lawyer did pay child support, and he looks exactly like Paul. Even when he was an infant, Phillip did not seek a DNA test with Paul, but no one knows what happened. Maybe he had a secret blood test and found there was no match, so he decided to keep his silence to avoid more embarrassment. Or maybe there was a secret settlement. Whatever happened, if Phillip is willing to go for a DNA test, the mystery can be solved. The fourth and the newest one is Stephen Dickinson. He decided to make an open plea to Bettina, Phillip, and any other possible siblings to do a DNA test with him. He was born July 10th, 1967. That means he was conceived right before Paul's passing. On the plus side, his mother knew Paul through her work, and he recalled the Beatles visiting his home when he was 7, 2 weeks before his mother's early passing at age 42. He said he had a witness of the meeting, but there were questions on his claim because he never shared the information till July 2016. And Paul was not listed as his father on his birth certificate, and his mother was much older than Paul. But he is willing to share his DNA test result. What do the others have to lose? A few viewers question my theory because they think Paul McCartney's children with Linda and Heather look just like Paul. So I pulled up some pictures for comparison. You see, even if the now Paul is not the real Paul, they must look alike to pull this off. So new Paul's kids must look like the original Paul, right? Or do they? Now take a good look at the McCartney family and decide if they really do look like Paul. Even if there is a DNA match between any of these 4 illegitimate children of Paul, most of Paul's fans may still refuse to accept the fact that the Paul they know is not the real Paul. There are 3 impossible to answer questions. Who can sing like Paul? Who can write songs like Paul? And why no one close to Paul ever came forward? Let me show you some short clips. In Jurassic Park, scary in the dark, I'm so scared that I'll be eaten. How about this? I am down and oh my soul so weary. If you have not figured out their names, it's Jeff Goldblum of Jurassic Park and Josh Groban. Other than them sharing the same initials, they also actually sounded alike. Do you agree? Actually, they sounded exactly the same because it is the same voice. My voice. And although I don't sound like either of them, when I put my voice with their videos, many can be fooled. Don't you think this may be the reason why so many fans fail to notice the difference between the two Pauls? For the ones still not convinced, let me show you another clip. Do you know who she is? How about this clip? Will you believe me if I tell you that you were actually looking at two different people? Now look at this clip. You can see a rare switch by her double caught on camera. You may say that fans in a crowded concert can be fooled, but not so easy if you try to fool recording studios. After 1966, he produced many more hit songs. But do you think the songs are at the same level as his earlier hits? List the 10 best Paul McCartney songs and see how many were written after 1966. Personally, I think the newer songs are great, but they are not the soul-searching melodies before 1966. Plus, don't forget Lennon was with him till the breakup of 1970, and there were some unfinished works from prior to 1966. Do you remember how eagerly people waited for the next Michael Jackson song? Or Madonna's new style? Anyone in Paul's shoes can dance like Paul, sing like Paul, and write like Paul. Well, people are so hungry for him, they won't mind a few missed little details. Then the next question is, if the now Paul is really a fake, how come no one close to him ever said anything? Well, have you listened to George Harrison's confession tape? Of course, people said it is a fake, but it does sound like him. How about Ringo Starr's interview? Have you heard the rumor about he married Heather Mills without a prenuptial, just to buy her silence? Think this way. There is no better way to transfer a gigantic sum of money to someone without raising suspicion and with no tax consequences. What kind of billionaire marries without a prenup? How much did the marriage cost him? 50 million? But how about his family? His father, brother, and girlfriend? I can't imagine anyone would allow an imposter walking into their lives like that willingly. Well, maybe that is the clue. Maybe it wasn't done willingly. Did you know Paul did not even attend his own father's funeral? Maybe there are too many family members there that would have blown the cover open. But that still sounds crazy, but if Paul committed suicide, then his family may not be entitled to any life insurance payoff. Maybe that can be a motive? Or maybe they wanted to protect Paul's reputation if Paul was high on drugs during the car crash. If I were his father, I probably will cooperate if I can save my son's image, right? Please remember the plan to replace Paul was only meant to be temporary. But like a popular soap opera with no end in sight, the show has continued till this day. But if you took the wrong path and passed the point of no return, there is no way to turn back. Like I said, we are not putting Mr. McCartney on trial. We just want to know the truth. This is Ken Peters. Thank you for watching.